Welcome back to Angela's Craft Room, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Australia for Stampin' Up. As promised in an earlier tutorial when I did this screen divider card for you, I said that I'd come back and I'd just show you how I sponged the panels, but I'm only going to do one. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how I did that. So first off, I do use shimmery white, as everyone knows me by now that I use shimmery white cardstock when I'm sponging. So that is just a piece of shimmery white cardstock, and the size doesn't really matter because it just depends how you're using it on the card. The purpose of the video today is to show you the technique I use, but for those that like measurements, that's 10 centimeters by 6 centimeters. Then you get 3 or 4 post-it notes together, and using your 1 3/8 circle punch, you're going to punch out a circle which is going to be the mask for your moon on the sticky part of the. So we just get rid of that. That's using the 1 3/8 inch circle, and then all I've done here is I've just stuck that down, give it a really good press around the edges, and then I've just peeled off so there's just one piece there. But when you're sponging, you just got to be careful that you don't lift it up. When you're sponging, it's best to sponge a little bit round all the edges when you get up to the moon. So I'm going to be using Rich Raspberry, Pumpkin Pie, and So Saffron at the top just for a little lightness. So we're going to start with Rich Raspberry, which is a very strong colour, and you will see that I stamp off a lot onto my grid paper because I just want it light, and I'm going to do that circular motion, and my hand isn't even on the grid paper, it isn't even touching the grid paper. I've stamped off, but I need to get that circular motion happening before I hit the paper, and I'm just doing it ever so lightly. Now, as I don't have very much ink left on there, I get a bit harder, but still doing that circular motion. Don't go too far up the card, just keep going on here. How far you want to go up with your first colour is up to you. You can always go back. As I say, you can always add colour, but you can't take it off. So I wouldn't make the whole card and then do this technique. I would do the technique first, and then you're not messing up your card. I'm just going further up. I just want that to be a bit darker. But I just find, as I tell you every time, the shimmery white cardstock is a lot better, in my opinion, to sponge on with this technique rather than just the normal white cardstock. So I'm taking the Rich Raspberry a fair way up. And you just need to keep at it until you get the desired look that you're looking for. So now I'm going to bring in the pumpkin pie colour. I'm going to start a bit on the Rich Raspberries. And just make sure you use a different sponge for each colour, because then you just rinse them out and they'll just dry overnight. Now I'm on the circle mask, so I'm being very careful to keep that down and just try and sponge a bit of the rich raspberry, the pumpkin pie all the way around that moon, because I'm only going to put a real little bit of the So Saffron colour at the top. But you just have to be so careful not to lift that moon. Just be very light. Because you're not going to have sticky round the whole of the moon once you cut it out of the post-it note. It's only going to be on one side. So where it hasn't got the stickiness, that's where you've got to be very careful. So I'm just going right round the moon. Just going a bit over the rich raspberry now with the pumpkin pie, so it's blending right down into that colour. So you're not going to get a line to say, oh, that's where the rich raspberry stopped, that's where the pumpkin pie started. That it must all blend in. And as I say, when you've finished your project, all you need to do is wash these out under the tap. I just leave them in my laundry to dry overnight, and the next day they're perfectly dry to go again. Now I might just like a little bit more rich raspberry, just bringing it up a bit more. It's just whatever effect you want, really, but I just wanted to show you how I did the panels on that screen card. There's a lot of people were asking me how I did the sponging. And it's just a technique that you can't rush it. So I'm just going right across the top there. Now I just want to make sure I've gone right round my moon, because once I lift that sticky note up, I cannot put it back down. Now I'm just using a very light colour, So Saffron. So I'm really having to hit that sponge in because it's a very light colour, just to bring a little bit of contrast at the top. Just experiment with different colour combinations. So that's just a little bit of saffron at the top there. Let me have a look. I think that looks pretty good. So we'll get rid of those ink pads. And that's it sponged. Looks like I've got more on the grid paper, and I most probably have, than on there, but that's how I do that technique. Now I'm going to have inky fingers. Once I take this off, you can see you've got your perfect moon. There's no ink on there whatsoever. So from the Serene Silhouettes, I'm going to use this stamp today. Now when I'm stamping, doing this technique with the moon, I always use my StazOn Jet Black. It's more of a vibrant jet black from Stampin' Up. Now you need to make sure you really ink. You only get one go at this, so you need to really ink up this stamp has very deep edging in it. The artist has done all the work for us. So we just need to really make sure we've got plenty of ink on there. Now when I stamp this, the bottom of the stamp here, I'm going to have it off the bottom a little bit. So as normal, I'm just lining that up with the grid paper, just so the top of the flower hits the moon, but the bottom is just going to be off the page a little bit. And I'm going to go down, press hard, trying not to wriggle it. And then you've got that effect. I just really love the sponging and the moon and that effect. So I'll quickly put it on a card for you. So I've just got some pumpkin pie at 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4. Then I've got a piece of early espresso, 5 1/4 by 4 inch. So I'll quickly just pop that on. If there's anything in particular you'd like me to do a tutorial for you on, just leave a comment below. I'm happy to try and help you out. That's that one. Then I've got a piece of designer series paper from the Love Blossoms, which I'm going to pop on there. You'll see there's hearts on the other side, but that's the good thing about these paper stacks. They have the corresponding colours on the back. So like when we get past Valentine's Day and all that, and we've got some of this left, we can always use the other sides. So I'm just going to line that up on my grid paper line again. See how much. Just put it down one side. Just eyeball it a bit. And then it goes down. So that's there. Then I've got a piece of 4.5 inch by 5 inch Daffodil Delight, which I'm just seeing how I want to do that. So I'm just going to bring in a piece of brown seam binding. Go down one side. Then on the back, this is going to get glued down, so you just need a little bit on each end. Grab my snips, so I can just snip that off there, snip that off about there, then just bring that over and snip that off enough. Then bring that piece over. No one's going to see the back, so don't worry too much. It's a good way to use up your short pieces of ribbon too. So then I want the ribbon, I want that to be that side. Let's see what I want. Yep. So I'm just going to turn it around so I can put it up against the grid lines. eyeball it to line it up where I want. Just that down. And then we're just going to glue that piece about there. I'm nearly finished. But this was mainly to show you the technique of the sponging and how to do the mask for the moon. I think those colours have really come up nicely. So then that's your finished card. So thank you for watching. I hope you'll try and have a go at this technique, and please help me out by subscribing to my channel. I have only had my channel for a month, so I'm trying to do 2 tutorials every week for you. So I would appreciate you subscribing if you could. Thank you.